Okay, thing three now. This one is a doozy, a lawsuit against the Department of Licensing for a massive data breach. We did know about a data breach at DOL some time back, but it's apparently a lot worse than we thought. At least allegations in a newly filed claim are pretty alarming. Every Washington resident with a driver's license or ID has been exposed in this, and the suit alleges that the Department of Licensing knew what was going on and kind of left the back door open for up to 6 years. I spoke this morning with Representative Jim Walsh about that suit. He's also worried about implications for voter fraud. Here's part of that conversation with Representative Walsh.
Major data breach of information from the Washington State Department of Licensing. And that was known. The department acknowledged that it happened. What the lawsuit alleges and has credible evidence to back up is the breach was both wider and deeper than we initially thought, and the department knew about it and tried to kind of do damage control. I wouldn't go as far as to say cover up, but sort of like that. Tried to do damage control over this data breach and minimize the extent of it. And that the truth about the data breach, which was it was much bigger than reported, and the agency knew about it sooner than they later admitted, really puts the agency, the Department of Licensing, a state bureaucracy, in a bad light. It looks like they acted, if the allegations are all right, they acted negligently. They knew there was a problem and they minimized the extent of the problem. And we infer from this lawsuit that there were lots of identities being stolen kind of wholesale and resold illegally. And how does that affect the automatic voter registration tied to those identities? It's very disturbing.
I also spoke this morning on the phone with the lead attorney on this case, Joel Ard. He's representing right now a single plaintiff, but he told me this could ultimately be a huge class action suit. He said there are thousands, maybe at this point as many as 10,000 Washington residents who had their driver's licenses redirected in one of these hacked batches. But he says that doesn't even account for all the other types of potential identity fraud here that may have occurred. And again, he alleges that DOL knew about this for years. He calls that the most egregious part. In fact, he told me this is what he said. He said, DOL is supposed to give notice within 45 days of discovering, a hack like this, a data breach, like your identity may have been compromised. The lawsuit alleges that the very first investigative file on this goes back to 20 is dated 2019 and involves several hundred misdirected licenses. But he says actually their digging has found that the problem goes back to Labor Day of 2018 all the way up to the second week of February 2025. A big giant alleged period of time that the Department of Licensing knew about this and didn't put security procedures in place to ensure that it couldn't continue to happen. I did reach out to the Department of Licensing for comment on this, forwarded the allegations. They're obviously aware of the suit. I didn't even receive a response via email. Um, the attorney, Joel Art, also told me that I think he said it's 60 days from the time that this was filed for DOL to sort of officially respond. Maybe they can work something out outside of the courtroom, but he's not holding his breath on that at this point. So that's it. That's a wrap for today's Thursday, March 5th episode of Washington in Focus Daily. We're going to be back here in the Capitol tomorrow when it will be less than a week remaining in the 2026 legislative session. I'm telling you, it's fast and furious. These guys are barely sleeping. Several members I saw today told me they'd had 1, maybe 2 hours of sleep last night, and I don't expect to get much more until this session comes to a close March 12th. So thanks again for watching. Have a great day.